file this one under hearsay of the worst sort. But I just can't resist chiming in with a couple of comments. There's a discussion going on in the forum in the marriage in Japan section about, basically it's about what Japanese women want and what they see in Japanese men and what they appreciate and why they marry Japanese men. An interesting idea for mostly foreigners talking about, mostly foreign men talking about Japanese women and what they like. And some of the men were kind of expressing some, the people in the forum were expressing some kind of surprise, for lack of a better word, that that Japanese men get the ladies that they get because sometimes they don't see them as having the same characteristics that are appreciated in other cultures. I'm trying to find a way to delicately say this. I think what the guys are basically trying to say is that a lot of Japanese men seem kind of, I don't want to say this, but I think that's the impression they were kind of not the coolest guys, okay? Although that's certainly not the case. If you come here and you go downtown Shibuya any old night, and especially on a weekend, you're going to see some pretty outrageously cool-looking guys. But, for the most part, a lot of hot Japanese women marry... I can't believe I'm talking this way. A lot of hot Japanese women marry some pretty average looking and acting Japanese men. So, I was walking home and thinking about this, and I have 2 points that I want to throw out that may help illuminate some of the answers to why that is the case. The first was, and again, this is just total nonsense in some ways, but the first was I was looking at gift wrapping the other night. This Japanese love to use English in a lot of things, and one of the things that they sometimes use it is to make false newspapers. It's artificial newspapers. It's not real, but it looks like a newspaper, and it's used as gift wrapping in a way. So you can have a box that comes in what looks like a newspaper, but it's actually artificial. And the articles that they write are sometimes very interesting to read because they're written by Japanese and the translations are interesting. But this particular one, I was looking at it, it was all about what Japanese women want out of men. And I was enjoying the reading, and it came to a little box that had some stats about a survey. I think it was a fake survey about what Japanese women wanted from their men, and the stats included, okay, these are the 3 things. There are a lot of things in there, a lot of typical ones, but there are 3 things that really stood out, and these were the top 3 or 4. Number 1 was they admired his heart. Now, if you've got some experience with the Japanese people, you know that they're all about heart, or they call hato. And I'm talking about this, and I'm not talking about the physical beating, pumping thing. I'm talking about the character that is expressed in someone's heart. They are all about heart. If someone has good heart in terms of a good character and a good caring about other people and a good attitude towards others in life, Japanese people can overlook lots and lots of faults for someone who has good hato. That was number 1. Now, I can't remember if it was number 2, 3, or 4, but the other 2 that were really interesting to me were the number 2. The second one was his voice. That's exactly how it described it. His voice. Now, I'm pretty sure that the person that made this document, this survey, they basically directly translated the Japanese words into English. So they translated hato to become heart, and then his voice, which was interesting to me as well, because that means that if they're trying to accurately, I think they made a list of characteristics in Japanese. Okay, these are the things that women like out of their men, and then translated into English. His voice, very, very interesting. Sure, voice is an appealing characteristic in all sexes. In both sexes, men like an appealing female voice, and females like an appealing male voice. But that it was number 2 or number 3 was very interesting. Okay, now the third one, that was the one that really got me. It was the last one. Number 3, and again, a direct translation, was his manhood. His manhood. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, and Molly, if you see this video, let's keep it clean. But his manhood, and they don't mean it in the way that you guys are thinking. They mean it in terms of the more conventional meaning of a manhood, of that quality and characteristic that a boy grows into and in becoming a man, in the character and attitude and the way he carries himself and the way he speaks and the way that he makes decisions, the way that he composes his thoughts, all that stuff. Manhood, basically. very interesting, especially that last one. Because in Japan, manhood is indeed a mantle that boys develop, they grow into, and they wear almost like an article of clothing. It's part of this famous Japanese this face-saving thing in some ways, is preserving one's manhood, especially with the male of the species in Japan. So manhood, his heart, his voice, and his manhood. 3 very interesting characteristics, which may not have been in the top 3 on lists in your own country. I don't know. At least in America, I think that many of those would have been listed. The list would have been different. So the other point that I wanted to make, not related to that list, was related to a survey, a very, very informal, small study group survey that I came across recently of Japanese school children and what they wanted to be when they grew up. And you guys all know the characteristic image of the Japanese businessman. You know, the dark suit and tie, the no-nonsense of business approach, the 12-hour, 14-hour workaholic work days, all of that. You'd be surprised at how many young boys said that when they grew up, they wanted to be an office worker. Now, obviously, these boys are choosing that because they see some appeal in being an office worker, and they know that their society recognizes a lot of appreciation for those people who become office workers. Indeed, Japanese society, most parents that would be delighted. I mean, most parents in Japan would be horrified if their son or daughter came home and said they wanted to be an entrepreneur. Geez, heaven forbid, go out on their own and gamble with some new idea. Much better that they get a job working at the local bureaucracy and spend 50 years working at being a desk jockey for a nice retirement at the end. Boy, getting a bureaucratic job at the city hall, that's about the end all for almost Japanese parents. So it makes sense that a young boy would decide that he wants to be an office worker when he grows up. So couple all these things together. The apparent attraction that women have to characteristics that are in many ways superficial, his voice, his heart, and his manhood. I mean, that has nothing to do with appearance. That has nothing to do with a lot of the things that we value in the West in terms of the superficiality of it all. I'm not saying Westerners are superficial, but we certainly do value a lot of the more bodily characteristics in many ways. And then couple that with the fact that the children recognize that something is seemingly uninteresting as being an office worker is something quite valuable, then maybe that helps to explain why Japanese women love their Japanese men just the way they are. And if you're a foreign man and you want to come to Japan and you want to find yourself a Japanese wife, well, maybe it's time to get yourself a black suit and tie and work on that heart of yours and develop that voice, develop that manhood, and you don't need any pumps to do that. Did I say that? Oh, gosh. Okay, this has to go on the LylesBrother channel. And above all, get yourself a job as a salaryman, and you'll be all set to get yourself a Japanese bride. There you go. Signing off from now. I'm going home to my Japanese bride. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.